Hello, basketball fans. It's Dave from Fantasy Basketball Analyzer, and I'm here to help you get ready for Week 5 of the NBA season. If we're in Week 5 already, it means we're almost 20% of the way through the NBA season, which is kind of shocking to me to think about. Like, football's still going. And depending on when your playoffs are, since Yahoo allowed the schedule to be moved up this year, playoffs could potentially start in week 20 for you, which would mean you're 25% of the way through your regular season, potentially, if you're league adjusted all the way forward, which I'm not saying. But with all of that in mind, without further ado, let's get ready for week 5 of the schedule. The big news of the week, Phoenix has 5 games. I believe this is the only time a team plays 5 games in a week this entire season. So get your Phoenix players in. That's a significant advantage minute-wise if they get to play an extra 2 games, maybe 3 if someone's didn't properly adjust their lineup against you. So at that point, the 2-game teams, Indy, Memphis, Orlando, they're basically all unplayable. I don't care how... Like, Memphis is actually probably my favorite team to watch right now on League Pass. But there's no way you could play Ja even at 2 games. I think all 3 of the teams are completely benchable. All right, I'll put the schedule down here like we do. And let's take a look at what we started to do last week, which is take a look at the overall teams to check out for their back-to-backs. Make sure we don't have anything like the Clippers, who, are resting Kawhi and Paul George on back-to-backs. Memphis has been resting their young stars, despite being young. So if we look here, we've got a lot of teams that do play back-to-backs, a lot of them on Friday and Saturday. But for the teams we're particularly targeting right now, the Clippers don't have any back-to-backs to worry about, and Memphis only has 2 games, so they don't have back-to-backs to worry about, and you shouldn't play them anyway. All right, and simply reading the schedules to you guys, or putting up things that you can take a screenshot of so you can help set your lineups, isn't really enough. So let's get into kind of key matchups, strength of schedule stuff that we started talking about last week. So if you didn't watch last week's video, my methodology is I look at both the defensive efficiency of the team, meaning how many points they allow per 100 possessions. This is Hollinger's numbers. And the pace of play. The reason I look at pace of play is the more times they have the ball, the more opportunities there are for points, assists, everything else. And if you're playing against that team, the more opportunities there are for rebounds off of missed shots and everything. Another thing that pace of play can be a little bit misleading about, which is good, is if you're a really bad team, so you would have a high defensive efficiency score, meaning you allow a lot of points, there's a good chance you're also going to have a high pace of play. Because pace of play doesn't fully mean you run it, it just means you get a lot more possessions in. So if you take crappy shots or really early in the shot clock because you don't have a good offense, or you're not getting any offensive rebounds and putbacks, that creates a lot of possessions, turning a ball over a ton. Rookie point guards losing their handle. That creates a higher pace of play because it's more possessions happening per game. So they kind of work together. So the speed of the game is definitely part of it, but there's this hidden influence in there, which kind of talks about how good or bad the team is. But I use those two, average them out, and you can see them. So the key teams, New Orleans, Washington, Golden State, these are guys we want to attack. They kind of all make sense. They play fast, and they're either young or just not good teams. I guess New Orleans is young. The other 2 teams are just rough. Brooklyn, Memphis. These are kind of the same guys. So if we go back full screen, look at our grid, I went ahead and highlighted those top 5 or 6 teams that average out as the real key targets. So Phoenix gets one of those teams, but honestly, besides the 5 games, which is an automatic play for me, Boston, Sacramento, New Orleans, Minnesota, Denver, none of them are on the stay away chart. Maybe Denver's definitely slower, but still with 5 games, it doesn't really matter. Charlotte has an especially good week. At Toronto is not necessarily a great matchup, but Brooklyn and Washington are both on the chart. Chicago's pretty high up on the chart for tasty matchups. Dallas gets to play the Spurs, which are playing pretty fast. Golden State, Cleveland, Houston. That's a strong week. But again, with 4 games, any of these teams with 4 games, if you got stars, like, you're not sitting Luka. It doesn't matter if it's bad matchup. Indy's got a good game, but they only played 2 games, so it doesn't matter. You got to skip them. Same with Memphis. So you can go ahead and kind of read through the chart. Utah might be in line for an extra interesting week. They play Minnesota twice, which does play pretty quick. And then they get to end with Golden State and the Pelicans. So they're going to be playing up in pace of play for all of those matchups. So it's probably a pretty strong tiebreaker if you're trying to decide between some Utah players getting off your bench. Cool. So just a short and sweet rundown this week, showing you the stats, breaking down what we've been seeing for the numbers. I'm really excited about what I've been seeing so far, both in the NBA season and on the channel. Thanks for leaving the comments and the likes. I've got over 100 subscribers now, so we're able to get that custom YouTube URL so we can go to youtube.com/fantasybasketballanalyzer and find the show. So it's great. Hopefully it keeps growing. And I'm going to come back with some more videos for you guys that aren't just schedule related. Let me know what you'd like to see. More waivers talk. Did you watch and like the DFS show? Longer format, shorter format. Like, feel free to give me feedback. You get to help shape the channel now. And cheers. Thanks for watching. Go on and win your week.